The CUB CADET 3X. No way around it. This thing is a clogging nightmare. But here's something you can install to prevent this from happening to you.
Well, how about that? I think we still managed to clog it.
Hey guys and gals, welcome to Garage Gear. I'm JB, and if you have a CUB CADET 3X or any other similar style brand with this forward-facing auger, and you're tired of those clogging headaches, then tune in. First step, we're pulling the spark plug to prevent any unwanted startups. Next, we gotta get this chute up and out of the way. Now, your model may vary, but we have two bolts right here. We're gonna disconnect those. 9/16 bolts, let's get them out. From here, I should just be able to lift this right up. Yep, and set it right up on top. Actually, as I took that off, the chute crank disconnected itself, which reinserts itself right here, so no big deal. We're just gonna take this and set it now off to the side. Now we have this shroud here that we gotta get out of the way, and it has 1, 2, 3, 4, 7/16 bolts. Let's take them out. Off she comes. So now by taking all that off, we have great access to our impeller, which is right here. And this little arm that sticks out, this is called your impeller arm, impeller blade, impeller paddle. It's got many names, but they all do the same job and they fling the snow out the chute. Now, if you have a CUB CADET 3X like this, or even a CUB CADET 2X, or even a Craftsman or Troy-built 2-stage, these impellers, they're all built the same way and they're pretty much designed in the same factory. So what we're gonna do here not only works tried and true for 2-stage snowblowers, but it works exactly the same way for 3-stagers. Now take a look at this gap here. This space between the impeller and the wall of the housing, that's the problem. That gap is nearly half an inch deep. That gap there is a problem because what happens is snow and slush starts to build up around the outside. Not yet. And eventually what happens is it slows your impeller down, reducing your throwing power. Way to go, MTD snowblower engineers. And to give this video some more power with the YouTube algorithm, would you mind hitting that like button? Thank you. Now to correct that problem, what we're gonna use is an impeller kit. And these paddles here are gonna be placed on top of those impeller arms and reduce that gap. This video is not sponsored. I purchased this impeller kit with my own money. I think they're a great product and I'll have them linked down below in the description. I'll also have my past impeller kit installs linked down there as well. So first off, we have these impeller paddles and they're all cut identically to the same width and length. They have pre-drilled holes for easier installation and they're only 1/4 inch thick. They also give you these metal washer plates. You could use these if you want to, if your impeller blades are a little wider. They give you all the hardware with lock nuts so they don't come off without a fight. And this kit actually comes with 4 self-drilling screws, and we're gonna take a different approach with this install. We are going to use these today because I have so many of these piled up. We're gonna use these self-drilling screws with these washers, and we're going to drill some holes and place them in just like that. And the reason I'm using those self-drilling screws is because we have these forward-facing augers that are very much in the way and are gonna make getting a ratchet and a wrench through and into that impeller housing very difficult. Could we use nuts and bolts? Yeah, but it's gonna be a royal pain. Now it looks like we need to cut our paddles down to about 2.5 inches. Now I wanna use these 2 holes and I'm gonna measure about 2.5 inches around them. So there's one of our lines and there's our next line. Then what I'm gonna do is take my other impeller panels, line them up. I'm going to stick them in my vise here. Hello, Mr. Wilton. And then from here, I'm gonna shave them down with one pass of my multi-tool. And now we're just gonna flip them over and hit the other line. And there we have it, 3 equally cut impeller paddles. Good deal. Now we have a problem here. We have these 2 bolt heads that stick up a little bit and they don't allow our paddle to get as close as possible to this outside wall. Now if I were to leave the paddle as is and let the paddle rub up against those bolt heads all the time, you'd hear this annoying as you're going and snow blowing your driveway. So we don't want that. So what I gotta do is remove something about there and something about there on each of these paddles to help those bolt heads pass right underneath them. So I'm gonna set these back in the vise, all lined up, and we're just gonna buzz out those corners. Cool. Now that looks great. We are right up to that edge. That fits perfectly over those bolt heads. Now here's the catch. We don't want that impeller paddle rubbing super hard against the inside of that impeller housing because that could slow things down. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna move it about 1 millimeter or 1/16 inch off of that wall. And a cool subscriber actually taught me a little trick for this. We're gonna take a dime and we're gonna stick that right here between that paddle and the wall of the housing. That gets us right to about 1/16 of an inch away. That's perfect. Now to keep that dime there, what I'm gonna do is stick a piece of electrical tape to it, and we're just gonna stick it right to the wall right there, just temporarily. We'll take this off later, but that'll be our guide. And as I bring the impeller up, stick it to it, that is exactly where we need to be. Now what we gotta do is mark our holes for our self-drilling screws. That there, mark that there. 2 holes, they're marked. Now what I'm gonna do is drill a very small 1/8 inch hole to help give our self-drilling screws some guidance. Everybody needs some guidance in life, right? So let's get in here. Wait, there's 4? Son of a gun, this one has 4. Whoops. All right, let's go cut another paddle. I thought it had 3. Most of these have 3. You don't see too many with 4. All right, let's buzz them. There we go. Not to worry, all cut exactly the same. This impeller blade is dirty. She's all marked. All right, let's get our pilot holes going. Not going all the way through, I'm just gonna get a hole started. And that'll do. Now I'm just gonna quickly do all the rest. Now, if you wanted to do a little tap and punch, you could do that too, but this will just be quick enough to get us started. So now I have a 10mm attachment with our self-drilling screw. Let's get this party started. I'm gonna take our paddle, put that in place, and from there, we're just gonna start drilling. And boom, look at that. Now our other one. There we go. Take a look at that. That is on the money. We are 1/16 inch away. We're tightened down. Pretty simple. Impeller paddle number 2. Number 2 done. Bring around number 3 here. Pop on our impeller paddle. Number 3, here we go, starting to drill. Looks good there. Okay, impeller paddle number 4 now. Good. Done. Now there's lots of little metal shavings and filings inside here, so I'm just gonna quickly vacuum around the inside, get them all out. Next, what I'm gonna do is go through and make sure that each one of those self-drilling screws is in snug. You don't wanna over tighten them or else they'll start to strip and spin inside the hole that you just drilled them into. So you just wanna make sure that they're in there snug. Yeah, that would need a little bit. That would need a little bit too. All 4 are all set. So we have now successfully reduced that gap down from 1/2 inch to approximately 1/16 of an inch. Next up, what we're gonna do is the spin test with the impeller. We're gonna spin it around by hand to make sure that there's no heavy friction as it passes around the outside, around the outside, around the outside of that impeller housing. Send this one through. Looking good. So she passes the spin test here. All the screws are tight, but we have one more thing to check out. This is the shroud that we took off earlier. And if you take a look inside here, this lip or this edge is already chewed up from years of use, but this edge always catches on these impeller paddles. So we have to take either a Dremel and wear this little edge down, or we can take our multi-tool and just shear it right off. I now have my shroud inside my vise, and we're gonna hit it with a multi-tool. Off she comes. That should probably do. Let's go bolt it back on and test it. Spin test number 2. No contact there, that's good. Passes right through, perfect. All right, let's pop the chute back on. Should just line right back up here. Cool, and we're gonna slide the bolts in just how we found them. Good, nice and snug. And from here, we're just gonna reinsert our crank end back where it belongs, right about there. Good, chute checks out fine. We're good to go. Spark plug is being reconnected. Good. All right, guys and gals, the impeller kit is now in place. Everything is snugged up. The chute's back on. So if you're ready, I'm ready. Let's go fire it up. Now, when we turn on the augers, we may hear a slight change in noise. Let's see what happens. No change really. We're looking pretty good here. Now, while that 3X is warming up, here's a couple of things. First off, the impeller paddles may make a little bit of a different noise as they're spinning around. Depends on how close they are to the impeller housing. If they're really too tight, they're gonna make a lot more noise. Next, you might smell some burnt rubber. again, depending on how close they are to the impeller housing and if they're making contact anywhere, you're going to start to smell some burnt rubber. I don't really smell any because, again, we had it about a 1/16 of an inch away. And last, you want to let it allow itself to break into the walls of the housing. And because of that, you might see some black streaks around the inside. That's okay. That's just the impeller paddles wearing in. So right where they need to be. Just let it happen. We're almost ready to go here. Now, I got no snow at the end of my driveway, but she does. Let's go hit hers. All right, so we got about a good 6 to 8 inches of heavy, wet lake effect snow here to really mess around with. This is potentially a nightmare for a Cub Cadet. Let's see if we can turn that Cub Cadet into a Cub Cannon. Ah, look at that. Much better. That's throwing it 3/4 of the way to the yard. Nice and high. Look at that. Woo. Get out of here, baby. Look at that. I'm throwing it to the second floor. Well, how about that? That's a nice high arc. Beautiful. Eating it right up in front. All right, this is the heavy stuff. Let's shoot it. Getting it out of there. Much better than what it was before. Send it. I'll take that any day. Let's get some more here. Not having it. There we go. Cleaning itself right out. Did we clog it? I think we still managed to clog it. Nope. Not happening. The problem's not in the impeller housing because that actually looks clear inside. I can see through that. You can see there's nothing in the hole. The problem is right up here in this auger, in this forward-facing auger. It's all jammed up and it just won't spin anymore. That auger's cooked. Look at that. It's like an ice cream sandwich in there. Problem's not back here. It's up front. Nope, there's nothing in the hole. All right, let's see if we cleared it. Yep. That's better. There it is. There we go. Sometimes you gotta get a little rough with her. All right, this is some heavy stuff here. Let's see if it does it again. Not bad. More heavy stuff. Oh, we're going up on our grass. Might want to get off of that. Shoot it. There we go. All right, my curb right here, this is another notorious area for clogging the machine up and really bogging it down. So let's see how it does. Better. Definitely better. It's eating right through it. It doesn't like it, but it does it. It's really clean in there. Look inside that. Now here's a few other tips and tricks to help you out and a few other commonly asked questions that come up regarding impeller kits. You still clogged it. You know what? This was the first time ever that I clogged a snowblower with an impeller kit on it. One for the record books. Prior to installing this kit, this 3X clogged numerous times for me, even in the smallest of snowfalls. It just cannot handle wet, sticky, lake effect, or curb snow. And this front auger doesn't exactly do the best job pulling the snow in either. It kind of pushes it. This design, simply put, is flawed. I want to know the engineer that looked at that and said, yeah, that's a good idea. There was nothing in the chute hole or the impeller, yet the augers were still bound up with snow. So having this kit inside the impeller really helps kick out the snow better, or at least what makes it to the impeller housing. Without a doubt, this increases the throwing power and reduces the clogging. Doesn't prevent it, but it definitely reduces it. And I was able to use this 3X 2 more times since the filming of those clips, and it didn't clog for me since. This procedure took me about 1 hour to complete, and your time may vary based on your make and model. Also, keep in mind, your results may vary based on your snowblower, your auger belt tension, the snow consistency, how much snow you have. Even other things like wind speed might come into play. So there's a lot going on here. But even though we only increased the length of the throwing arm on each impeller by a small amount, this made a big difference. It could really chuck it. And in my experience, every single snowblower that I've installed an impeller kit on saw an increase in throwing distance and clog prevention because it's always squeegeeing around the inside of the impeller housing. And at the end of the driveway, that makes a big difference keeping your impeller clear. Now, if you don't want to buy one of these kits, you could also DIY it. You could use some rubber from a mud flap, the sidewall of a tire, or you could be like me and chop up an old conveyor belt. Whatever you decide to use, make sure it's thick enough and that it's cut to equal sizes, and you'll be good to go. Also, make sure that you use matching self-drilling screws to keep everything balanced. Next up, will the paddles ever wear down and need to be replaced? Once they wear into the housing, that's it. I've had a few message me recently saying that those paddles will keep wearing down and they'll need to be replaced. And that couldn't be farther from the truth. Once they wear into the wall of the housing, there's nothing there to keep wearing them down. The wall stays put and the paddle just keeps spinning in its newly formed home, so to speak. The impeller kit that I installed on the Garage Geezer snowblower 11 years ago has never needed to be changed. Those paddles haven't worn down any further since I installed them. So this is very much a one and done project. Bolts. For over the past decade, on all the snowblowers that I've done an impeller kit install on, I've always used nuts and bolts. The hardware on both ends of the impeller blade holding everything down, unlike my college dating life, has been 100% drama-free. I've never had any issues using self-drilling screws or self-tapping screws. They hold down just fine. I went the quicker route on this unit because I'm planning on selling this snowblower in the coming weeks. But if you're planning on keeping your snowblower for a long period of time, my recommendation is to go with bolts. Another question that's come up recently is, can you install an impeller paddle on the bottom of the impeller blade? This is not advised by the instruction manual that comes with this kit, and in my experience, placing these on the bottom with self-tapping screws would be a very bad idea because there's really nothing holding them on at that point. And honestly, I think it'd be really difficult to install them considering the impeller blades on this snowblower kind of wrap down and around, so it doesn't exactly give you a flat level surface to place them on. Even on Aaron snowblowers, they have a curved impeller blade, and that would be difficult too to shape that to the underside of that impeller blade. The best plan of attack here is going to be simply just bolting them or screwing them to the top. Next up, belts. No major issues to report after installing an impeller kit, and I've installed lots of them. Unless your impeller paddles are rubbing really hard around the impeller housing, you really shouldn't have any major issues other than normal wear and tear. Next, silicone sprays and other coatings sprayed around the inside of the auger housing. Some like to use PAM. Well, on this model, it definitely helps. This is a lousy design that commonly clogs. And in my experience, it's almost necessary whether you do this mod or not. But let's be real here. You have to keep reapplying this. Think about it like this. When you make eggs in a pan, you usually have to spray the pan with some kind of nonstick spray or coat it in some kind of butter or some other nonstick method. And if you don't, your eggs will be caked on. And your snowblower is kind of the same way. But in a realistic sense, after you make your first couple of passes, a majority of those sprays are usually wiped off from all the friction of the snow passing through the snowblower. All that being said, this is mainly there for rust prevention purposes anyways. And if you're looking to keep your snowblower rust-free, be sure to check out my full snowblower rust-proofing course linked down below right at the top of the description box. Snowblower bonus here, this drives up your resale value. Every single snowblower in this garage that had an impeller kit installed on it sold for $50 to $100 more. As soon as people hear that their snowblower will throw farther and clog less, they're sold. No question about it. I also get a lot of subscribers asking, why don't snowblower manufacturers just do this from the first place? Again, my guess is that production costs get in the way, and this is MTD that we're talking about here. Their build quality in recent years it's gone down significantly over the years, while their prices have only gone up. So I don't see them adding something like this anytime soon. And with that lame auger design up front, an impeller kit like this is almost a necessity. Now, a big question that I get, will doing this void the warranty? Yes. According to most manuals, any alterations to the unit can void the warranty. So if you're afraid of voiding your warranty, wait until your warranty time frame is up, then have at it. Do so at your own risk. You gotta ask yourself though, do you want this expensive CUB Cadet 3X to just limp along all winter long, storm after storm, or do you want this blower to blast it? I've done this mod on so many different models now, and all I can say is that they only perform better. By the way, I finally picked up a silver Sharpie. Finally, after all these years. If you've been following this channel for any length of time, you know I've gone many impeller kit installs without one of these. Having these is huge for marking these lines. For more cool garage gear content, click or tap the screen right here. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the garage.